going to switch a couple of pages here. Section 4, election procedures. Election for property of individual immigrating from Canada on or after March 29th, 2010, with respect to which a disposition of the property would have been taxable in the United States. So again, we've got some situations where it's going to have effect as of March 29th, 2000. Well, that's still another 19 days from now. So this is a living, breathing document that if you happen to be seeing this and you have a friend or a relative who's emigrating from Canada to the States, be sure that you get them to take advantage of this. Make sure that your tax consultant knows the rules and understands it. And I'm going to tell you that you can expect your tax consultant, if it involves you, to charge you anywhere from, as I've looked at it, anywhere from, are you sitting down and waiting for this, $1,000 to $2,000 to do the elections for you, because that's what it's going to take. Now, Mitchell, we got our question yet from Juju?
Yep.
Okay. What is the question?
Actually right here. As a dual U.S. Canadian citizen, I work in the States and live there most of the week. I return to Canada for 2 or 3 weekends a month, where my common law spouse lives. I have a residence available to me in both countries. Most of my economic interests are in the U.S. Where is my center of vital interest for residents per Canada, U.S.-Canada treaty tiebreaker rules? Where is my habitable abode?
Where's his habitual abode? Okay. Was your mic on when you were doing that? Oh, why not?
Because I can't talk right now.
Well, but still, the audience, what am I supposed to do? Trying to repeat the question now, because that's, is he available to phone in instead of doing this by email? But I'll try. What the question is, it seems to me that it's a person who is a U.S. citizen and a Canadian citizen, so he's a dual citizen. He can move back and forth across the border at will. And he has a lady friend, a common law spouse, who he comes up and spends 2 or 3 weekends a year or a month with in Canada. Now, when he comes up and spends his time here, what he wants to know is, for the purposes of the U.S.-Canada tax treaty, where is he living and where does he have to pay tax? I'm going to make the statement to him, since he has a house in both places, I'm going to make the statement to him that if he stays in the States and he has his common law wife, and if there's any children, come and visit him in the States on a regular basis, then if she goes down there 2 weekends a month and he only comes up here a couple of weekends a month, that he is absolutely a resident of the United States for taxes under Article 4 of the 4.2a and 4.2b of the U.S.-Canada tax treaty. Now, the United States, for instance, doesn't recognize a common law spouse. Canada does, absolutely and without any doubt, recognize a common law spouse. So a little bit would matter as well as to where his car is registered, where his driver's license is, and whether or not he has and belongs to, for the sake of argument, BC Medical or Ontario Hospitalization or Manitoba, because we don't know what state and province he's going to. And in this situation described, this person may very well have a Canadian provincial medical plan and be a member of it and even using it, because unless somebody reports him, it would not show up that he wasn't really legally entitled to it. So my statement to you is, as described and as I understood it from the question that Mitchell read out to me, you are a taxable resident of the States, not subject to Canadian tax. You are likely a factual resident of Canada, subject to the treatment of a U.S. tax treaty and therefore exempt from tax. And I think you find that in paragraph D, about page 8 or 9 of the Canadian General Income Tax Benefits thing, to make sure I can see that clock on that thing. Is there a question there? No. Okay. That's the way I would go, unless there's something that you haven't told me about. For instance, if you're only spending 2 or 3 weekends in Canada, I'd try and keep it to 2 weekends in Canada and have your lady come down and visit you 2 weekends down there. And if you never intend to get married, then under U.S. law, your lady is not a wife. She's a consort, but she's not a wife, even though under Canadian law, she can be a common law wife depending on how long you've been together. She can be a common law wife under Canadian social or Canada pension rules. She can be a common law wife under Canadian income tax rules. And if she's a common law wife and you weren't a Canadian citizen, she could sponsor you to come to Canada as a permanent resident. So it's a little tricky there because Canada would love to tax you. Absolutely, Canada would love to tax you. And the disadvantage you've got right now is that you are not able to file a joint tax return with her, which would knock your U.S. taxes way down. So if she was a legal wife, she could keep on living in Canada. You could be doing what you were doing in the States. You could file a joint tax return, and if you're making as much as $100,000 a year, you'd save $8,000 a year in U.S. income tax and still not have to pay any tax to Canada. I think that answers it. Now, we're expecting a phone call at 7, supposed to be coming in from New Orleans, hasn't arrived yet, but I think it's 7:01, so if he happens to be watching this, I'm ready for your phone call from New Orleans, and my voice is going, so I can't keep on talking 24/7 here. It's funny, Richard went home sick, Mitchell's got laryngitis, and I don't know if you can hear my voice going, Mitchell, but it's a disappearing, so let's hope that our call comes in. And I'm going to take another look at this question here and see if there's something I missed about it. The question is, he's written it as a dual U.S. Canadian citizen, I work in the States and live there most of the week. I return to Canada for 2 to 3 weekends a month where my common law spouse lives. I have a residence available to me in both countries, but most of my economic interests are in the U.S. Where is my center of vital interest for residents per U.S.-Canada tax treaty tiebreaker rules? Where is my habitual abode? Let's see. Thank you very much, and hope it helps. So I guess that's it. He's accepted that answer, and I'll take it that way. And I'm going to take a break for a second, so can you put up that screen that says Ingram will be right back? And we've got another call expected to come in at 7:15 or 7:20.